He was Abraham Lincoln's best-loved son, and he died inside the White House when he was only a boy. Today, I'll show you his final resting place and where Abraham Lincoln came to visit him. Hello, I'm Aaron Killian, and welcome back to Dead, White, and Blue, the YouTube series all about the final chapters and final resting places of famous dead Americans. Today, we continue our journey through Washington, D.C.'s Oak Hill Cemetery by telling the tragic story of Willie Lincoln's death and examining the temporary burial site where Abraham Lincoln himself came to mourn his son. First, let's learn about Willie Lincoln's life before death.
William Wallace Lincoln was the third son of Abraham and Mary Lincoln. Known as Willie, he was remembered as being very much like his father, kind, caring, and wicked smart. He was also handsome, not something many people said about his dad. When the Lincoln family moved into the White House, Willie was 10 years old. He and his younger brother Tad explored the historic building and reveled in the military actions taking place all around them. They fancied themselves as young soldiers in the Union Army. When Union troops were attacked in Baltimore on their way to defend Washington in 1861, the boys built a fort at the White House to defend their new home. "Let 'em come! Willie and I are ready for them," Tad apparently said. The children of the 16th president brightened their parents' lives during the darkest years of the Civil War. The rambunctious duo had the run of the executive mansion and were known to playfully disrupt the vital work going on within its walls. But while Tad was all fun and games, Willie continued to emulate his father. He loved to learn and was considered to be quite a deep thinker for such a young boy. When a family friend died in battle, Willie composed a poem in his memory. "No squeamish notions filled his breast. The Union was his theme. No surrender and no compromise. His day, thought, and night's dream. His country has her part to play towards those he has left behind. His widow and his children all, she must always keep in mind." These themes were later echoed by President Lincoln in his second inaugural address.
Thanks, Jake. And for more information about the National Museum of Civil War Medicine, make sure to check out the show notes below. All right, let's get 6 feet deep on Willie Lincoln. Willie Lincoln died of typhoid fever at 5 p.m. on Thursday, February 20th, 1862. He was in Washington City inside the White House's Prince of Wales bedroom. The boy was only 11 years old at the time of his passing. Unlike today, during the 19th century, the nation's capital was underdeveloped and lacking infrastructure. There was no effective sewage system, and the water supply of Washington City was notoriously unsanitary. Multiple occupants of the White House fell victim. Modern historians think that the tainted water was responsible for the demise of Presidents William Henry Harrison, James K. Polk, and Zachary Taylor, an effective advertisement for Brita pitchers if ever there was one. Communicable diseases ran rampant, and in the early weeks of 1862, both Tad and Willie Lincoln fell ill from typhoid, a dangerous bacterial ailment typified by high fever, stomach pain, and intestinal distress. Tad eventually recovered, while older brother Willie deteriorated over the course of 2 weeks within the confines of his second-floor White House bedroom. And although nursed devotedly by his parents Abraham and Mary Todd, along with family servant Elizabeth Keckley, Willie would eventually succumb. Willie Lincoln's funeral was held on February 24th, 1862. In the preceding days, the White House was draped in black, while Willie's body was embalmed and placed in a metallic coffin made of rosewood and silver. He was then covered with a blanket of camellias and laid in the White House green room. At noon, on the day of the funeral, Abraham and Mary Todd Lincoln, along with their eldest son Robert, entered the candlelit room and locked the doors. They sat alone with Willie's body for 2 hours. Overcome with grief, Mary Todd could not bring herself to attend the 2 p.m. funeral service and retreated upstairs. Willie's coffin was then relocated to the East Room of the White House. The service was filled with congressmen, military officers, cabinet officials, and foreign dignitaries. The Reverend Dr. Phineas Gurley spoke over Willie's body, saying, "It is easy to see how a child thus endowed would, in the course of 11 years, entwine himself around the hearts of those who knew him best." The service concluded, Willie's body was placed on a hearse pulled by 2 white horses and brought to Oak Hill Cemetery, where it took up temporary residence in a cemetery vault. The Lincolns were devastated. Abraham Lincoln wept aloud, saying, "My poor boy, he was too good for this earth. God has called him home. I know that he is much better off in heaven, but then we loved him so. It is hard, hard, to have him die. Lincoln threw himself into work while overseeing the recovery of his young son Tad as the two drew close in the wake of Willie's passing. Mary Todd Lincoln was incapacitated by sadness, remaining in bed 3 weeks after her son's death. Elizabeth Keckley noted that her mistress was an altered woman. She never crossed the threshold of the guest room in which he died or the green room in which he was embalmed. Mary Todd did seek comfort in spiritualism, a 19th century fad wherein the living sought to commune with the dead through spiritual mediums. Although her husband thought them foolish, Mary Todd attended multiple seances throughout Washington City and even hosted some inside the Lincoln household. Eventually, the spectacle became a political liability and the seances were done away with. But the grief persisted. Mary Todd wore black mourning clothes for an entire year after her son's death. Willie Lincoln died so young that there was no estate to leave behind. His death, however, left a lasting impact on his parents' marriage. After losing their son Eddie years before, Willie's passing only further strained an already fraught relationship. But the duo managed to pull themselves back from the brink. On the day of his own untimely death, Lincoln's mood lifted as he told his wife, "We must both be more cheerful in the future. Between the war and the loss of our darling Willie, we have been very miserable." More recently, the death of Willie Lincoln was novelized by George Saunders in the critically acclaimed Lincoln in the Bardo, winner of the esteemed Booker Prize for fiction. Heard it's weird, but my wife loves it, giving it one of her rare 5-star reviews on Goodreads. Now let's see where he was buried. Willie Lincoln was in Oak Hill Cemetery's North Hill plot, Lot 292, the Carroll family mausoleum. Let's go find him. Here he was. Let's have a discussion of grave importance, shall we? Sad to leave his boy cold and alone, Abraham Lincoln visited Willie's body inside the Carroll vault on several occasions, asking to have the crypt and casket opened so that he might spend time with his son's body. The scene has proved so moving to the imagination that Oak Hill Cemetery recently installed a plaque inside the Carroll vault, marking the place where Lincoln came to privately mourn his son. The vault itself was owned by the clerk of the Supreme Court, William Thomas Carroll, who graciously made his family's space available to the Lincolns until such time as the first family returned to Illinois. William was also an extended member of the venerable Carroll family of Maryland, a clan whose membership includes a signer of the Declaration of Independence and the first Catholic bishop in the United States, who also founded Georgetown University. The vault itself is beautifully situated in Oak Hill Cemetery's northwest corner, on a bluff overlooking Rock Creek. Made of granite, the vault's interior grave covers are marble. Beneath the covers are the remains of 18 persons, the last of whom was interred in 2008. As of today, the vault is no longer receiving bodies, but at the time of Willie's death, the vault was already occupied by 3 of William Thomas Carroll's sons, who also died young. William would join the group in 1863 when he passed away at age 61. After President Lincoln's assassination, Willie's coffin was removed from the vault on April 21, 1865, and placed on a funeral train beside his father's. Both were brought to permanent burial in Oak Ridge Cemetery in Springfield, Illinois. If you like what you saw today, remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you want to learn more about Historic America, visit our website at www.historicamerica.org. There, you can subscribe to us on Patreon, read our online journal, and listen to our podcast, A Place in Time. If you plan on being in the D.C. area or one of our other cities in the future, you can also book a tour with us. We have a diverse menu of multi-sensory tour options to choose from. All this information and more can be found in the description below. Until next time, for Dead, White, and Blue and Historic America, I'm Aaron Killian, and I'll see you inside the cemetery.